Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening from wherever you're zooming in from. Today is October 27th, 2024, and I'm so thankful and grateful to have this platform to speak with you this afternoon on different topics. One of the topics being leading the way, Native voices and the campaign trail. So we're thankful that you're here. If you're watching this in the live or in the replay, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself, start with the prayer, do land acknowledgement, and then get into the discussion. But before we begin, I'd like to introduce myself. Hiahomi Takiape, Ever Cordovi Machiape, Malakota and Taos, Pueblo. My Dama is Joseph Conquilla Cordova. My Ina, my Ka is Patricia Crow Cordova. I'm sixth generation from Chief Red Cloud. I'm the owner-operator of AC & Associates. I'm a mother, daughter, community member. I'm a grandmother. I'm a Dodger fan. And I'm a Charger fan, so I'm missing my Charger game to be here with you, but that's all good. I'm thankful to be here, and I have some medicine burning. I don't know if you can see it, but I have some California white sage, just one little leaf burning. And one little leaf is powerful with the smudge that it brings. So I'm going to go ahead and say a blessing, say a prayer, have a moment of have a moment of thankfulness. So please allow me a moment to pray. Creator, we come to you today with open hearts and open minds, thankful for the many blessings that you provide us on a minute, monthly, second basis, from the ability to walk, talk, be here today to chat, to learn, to question, to inquire, to have a visit. Continue to watch over the individuals that are here and the individuals that are watching this now live or in the replay. Creator, I'm thankful for the many blessings that you provide us, from the ability to wake up, from the ability to have something to look forward to and something to prepare for. And if others want to join me, I'm thankful and grateful for that. Even if you're just listening or haven't yet decided on your decisions regarding your voice, thank you for being here and listening. Creator, I want to ask that you watch over my family, my friends, the youth, our elders, our military veterans, and all of those in our community that might be suffering from whatever it is that they're suffering. Please know that they are loved today, that they've been prayed for today, and I'm thankful for the blessings and another day that you've provided. Amen. Oh, thank you. So, thank you for allowing me to pray. And we're going to go ahead and go into our next session. But I just want to say thank you for being here. If you're watching, let us know in the comments where you're checking in from. We'd love to shout you out, what area you're checking in from. Share the like, share and like, not share the like, share and like. And we're going to bring on our special guest, and they're going to do the land acknowledgement. So I have the privilege of introducing you to somebody that I've known since I can ever remember. She has been in my life for 49 years and 9 months. And she has helped me grow in different ways. We have this thing where we're sisters and we're twins, and she's somebody very close to me. I've known her, like I said, since the womb. She's been by my side since day one. So I'd like to introduce you to the one and only Songtree Pioche. Woo! Hi.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Yate, hiaho. I hope you're all doing good. It's so awesome to be here with you all. So I give me some direction, April.
Okay. Tell us who you are. Tell us what you're doing. Introduce yourself first, and then you can tell us where you're zooming in from, where you're streaming in from.
Okay. So, hi everyone. I'm so grateful that you're tuning in, whether live or on the replay. My name is Songtree Pioche, and I am Taos, Pueblo, Oglala, Lakota. I'm married to my wonderful husband, who is Navajo, and we have four wonderful children, one stepchild and three of my own. And we live here in Bloomfield, New Mexico, which is in the northwest corner of New Mexico. We're close to Farmington, Aztec, and we live in Bloomfield. So we are like a border town to the Navajo Nation on the New Mexico side. And currently, I mean, I have a lot of roles. I'm a mother first, and a sister, auntie, also grandma to my nieces and nephews. And I'm an educator, and I am a candidate for Senate District 2. Let's see. April has asked me to do the land acknowledgement, and so I am happy to borrow a land acknowledgement from the San Juan Preservation Trust. So let me go ahead and read that. We live and work in the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary territories of the Navajo and Southern Ute people, who hold rights and responsibilities to these lands and waters. We continue to learn about our relationships and recognize that the boundaries of today are colonial making and do not reflect Indigenous peoples' traditional relationship to the land, governance, and territories. We humbly recognize and express gratitude for the Indigenous peoples' enduring relationship with these lands and waters since time immemorial, and as the original stewards. Native communities continue to contribute to the life and celebrate their heritage, practice traditions, and care for the land and waterways. This relationship has long been and continues to be integral to our ecosystems and biodiversity, and we have much to learn from it. We acknowledge and continue to learn about the recent history of land dispossession, oppression, violence, trauma, as well as the ongoing impacts of involuntary removals of this region's Indigenous peoples from their homelands. We see that despite history, Indigenous communities remain strong, resilient, and engaged in ongoing resistance to colonization, and we are working to better understand how our histories are intertwined with settler colonialism, and that we can interrupt harmful patterns and better support Indigenous sovereignty rights, self-determination, and well-being. So thank you for allowing me to read that land acknowledgement. I like to look at different land acknowledgements. I learned about them at UNM, the University of New Mexico, and that is one of the first things that we can do to acknowledge our histories, but it is a first step. So thank you for allowing me to do that for our broadcast today.
Thank you, Songtree, for that. I appreciate it. And it's interesting to hear the different land acknowledgements by individuals, by organizations, by the different governmental individuals that do that. I mean, I know now, like people, like Native people are like, we don't have to do a land acknowledgement. You should already know that. But I tend to like to like to educate people. So I don't mind doing it. And I'm just thankful for the opportunity to know who it is that has been here for thousands and thousands of years. And when I do that, I'm very much grateful for our ancestors somebody's ancestors that have been here before. So thank you, Songtree, for doing that.
You're welcome. I want
So
to share real quick.
yeah, no, take your
Okay.
time.
I was asked to do a land acknowledgement before, actually about this time last year, um, in Albuquerque. Well, not in Albuquerque, in at Santa Ana Pueblo, at one of my favorite resorts, the Tamaya, which is a really nice resort that the Santa Ana Pueblo people have. And so we had a women's summit. I'm a commissioner, and you'll hear a little bit more about this later, but I'm a commissioner on the New Mexico Commission on the Status of Women, and we were having our first women's summit. And so we were looking for someone to do a land acknowledgement. And I know some Santa Ana Pueblo people, and so I was asking around, but nobody like really stepped up. And I happened to just finish a candidate training program through Advanced Native Political Leadership, and I met a lot of leaders that way. And one of the former governors was there, and so I called him and I was like, "We're looking for someone to do a land acknowledgement." He goes, "Do it, you know, do it." And I was like, "Okay, well, thanks for, supporting me that way." So I thought about it and I did some research and I did the land acknowledgement, but what's really profound is that it wasn't superficial, meaning we weren't just saying something just to say it and get out of the way and move on to our agenda. At that resort, they are actually using their space to train up leaders. I just graduated from, the advanced Native political leadership training that they had there for a week. And so they're actually using that space to birth future Native leaders. So it was significant to me. So I always think nothing can ever top that. But, as we get older, we start to get asked to do things like this. And sometimes it can be uncomfortable because I don't see myself as an elder yet, but we are there. We don't have our parents, we don't have our grandparents. And so it's up to us to step into these roles. So I just want to share that with me because I still don't think no land acknowledgement can top that yet.
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that because also, is it just like a check off the box? It's for this particular reason. I mean, for that individual to be like, step up, do it. You have the ability to do it, and to somewhat give permission as well, So I appreciate that individual. What was his name again, or their name?
Um, I'd have to look it up, but he was one of their former governors, Joe something. I'm sorry if you're watching this because you are my Facebook friend.
But
um,
Joe, know that too. We appreciate you for encouraging, even if it was just like, a little push, not a shove, but like encouraging you to do that. We appreciate you. Thank you, Joe. So we're going to go ahead and go into the show. And thank you, sister, for opening that with the land acknowledgement. I know you've introduced yourself, but today what we're here to do is do an introductory to Native Vote. And one of the things that I felt inclined to do, since I have this space and I have this ability, I wanted to emphasize the importance of Native Vote in the upcoming election. We wanted to highlight some key statistics. So I'm going to go ahead and in the chat put something, some information, and then Sister is going to give us some behind the scenes or information on it. So let me just read it, and then Sister, you can talk about it because you're the one that found this stuff.
okay.
So according to the 2020 US Census data and our own research, and this is through Advanced Native Political Leadership, According to the 2020 US Census data and our own research, Native American, Alaskan Native, and Native Hawaiian people make up 0.07% of the elected officials, where we represent at least 3.4% of the United States population. In order to reach representational parity in elected offices alone, we need to elect more than 17,000 Indigenous leaders at all levels of government. And I want to share this with you because I was talking to my sister Songtree one night. We were just chit chatting, and I was like, "How can I help you on your political campaign?" You know, and she was like, and then she was like supporting me. She was like, "You should apply for this," and I was like, "I don't want to go into politics. That's your thing." But not that it's a thing. I just myself don't see me in a seat or in a area of like politics. That's not me. But one of the things that my sister encouraged me to do is apply for, you know, this training that she went through too. And she was like, "Well, I'm going to be moving out of the state that I'm from, and I'm in the Tongva territory, so like Los Angeles, San Gabriel Valley area. So I'm going to be moving in about 2 to 5 years out of state to another location." And she said, "What if you go to another state and you want to step onto a board, a school board? They're going to give you this training that you will need in that realm." And I was like, I never thought about that, because when I think of like politics, I think of senators and congressmen, but we don't think of that first step. And I would be scared to go into that realm, but we don't think of that first step, like school boards, PTA, a board of directors in your local area. You know, there's several board of directors or organizations here in Los Angeles that are Native run that can use your voice. So things like that, you know, that first step of not like the White House, and one day soon a woman will be our president, or, you know, we've already had African American that have been our president, things that we never thought this world could see. But if we make that first step into a leadership realm, it changes the narrative and the voices that are sitting around that table. You know, we always say, sit at the table, don't be on the menu, be, you know, the person that's ordering or telling the truth. So going back to this data, you know, I just want to, that's my two red cents of what my sister encouraged me to do, and I was excited about it. You know, I never saw myself like that. But then again, another thing that she said was how I always open myself with an introduction, and how I do it is in 2 different languages, which is Taos, Pueblo, and Oglala, just because that's who I am. And I've made it my own. And I always say that we're 6th generation from Chief Red Cloud, because that's where we come from. And my sister has said, I need to put that in my introduction, because we are from leadership. We are from a chief. We are from relatives and ancestors who have prayed for us. We were their wildest dreams, and we are, in some instances, the next generation, because there will always be a 7th generation. And I heard that from another elder. I never thought that, because I always thought my daughter is the 7th generation. My daughter Jackie, our, you know, our family, anybody's family, your family, my family, will always have a 7th generation that we need to pray for. Okay, the end on that portion. So I'm going to turn it over to my sister and have her speak on this and some other data that we found.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. Because it does take, like, you do have like a watershed moment or like an epiphany one day, and it all kind of fits together like a puzzle. And it took me a long time to get to that place in which I can understand my purpose better. And so a couple of things before I talk more about my journey is Avra was talking about representational parity. So I want to explain what that means. And so that's an idea that all genders or races are represented equally where decisions are being made about us. So we are talking about the legislature right now. And in New Mexico, we have 20. New Mexico is where I live and where one of my tribes originates from, the Taos Pueblo. And so here in New Mexico, 13% of our state's population identifies as Native American, Alaska Native, or Native Hawaiian. And we have 23 federally recognized tribes here in our state. So that's Navajo Nation, 3 Apache Nations, and 19 Pueblos. And each one of those has their own forms of government, own language, own cultures. And so they enjoy a government to government relationship with the state of New Mexico and the United States. So in New Mexico, we have 2,201 elected officials in office. And in order for us to reach representational parity, we need 246. And right now we have 34. So we have a ways to go, but I am excited because there's so many women that have stepped up for office this election cycle and have won. And so super proud of, all women that are running for office, but especially proud of our Native women that are running for office. So if you're listening to this, um, I'm just super proud of you because uh, sometimes names fly out of your head and I just can't remember. But yeah, Michelle Pauline Abeda, she ran for House Representative District 69, which is on the west side of me. She ran for office because she asked for a small bit of money from her state representative and got denied. And she was just like, it's for education. How could you deny this? So I'm going to run against you. And she ran and she won in the primary. The other person that ran is Angel Charlie, and she ran for Senate in Acoma Pueblo area. It's a big district, but Acoma Pueblo is the main one. And she also ran for Senate in the primary and won. And so she's also, I mean, they're amazing women too. Michelle has put herself through school. She has multiple levels of education, has a Juris Doctorate from Arizona State or University of Arizona. And Angel Charlie is amazing. She's the executive director of Illuminative. So she's going to be representing us well. If you don't know Illuminative's work, please visit them. They are amazing and doing some amazing work across Indian country. So that's representational parity. And so it's exciting to be part of this movement of Native people running for office so that we are not, people are not talking about us and making decisions about us. So let's see. Some of the things that I wanted to talk about is also, besides the excitement of more Native people running for office across the country, and specifically here in New Mexico, we've come a long way because we've had to overcome a lot of barriers to get to this point. And so I'm so thankful to our ancestors that have stepped up and fought these fights. And I know this well because my journey into leadership was not an easy one. I mean, it started because I have 3 amazing kids who I raised, and I trusted the school system, and my oldest son, Cash, was very smart, and he caught on to things really quick when he was young. Like 4 years old, he won his first saddle, And by the time he was 6 years old, he won 10 saddles and like over 50 buckles. And in, rodeo, um, in the rodeo lifestyle, that's a significant achievement to win buckles and to win saddles. And, my daughter qualified to the Indian National Finals Rodeo when she was 10. And so I didn't realize that. I didn't catch that on. It didn't occur to me that he was gifted. It just occurred to me that he was good and he liked to do what he did. And so um, I when gifted children are not served, they start causing problems. And so he started causing problems in the school class, in the classroom. And one of his teachers told me, if he just like corrected his behavior, I mean, I think he might be gifted. And so that one meeting like changed the trajectory of my life. And so that's where I started becoming an advocate, fighting for his rights in school. Um, so I wanted to touch on some things too about the barriers that Native people have endured, not just in New Mexico, but in Arizona and everywhere. Everywhere there are Native people, we have all experienced some kind of barrier to vote. And it's understandable because the federal government hasn't been good to us. They've taken away our lands, taken away our language, in some instances, taken away our ability to have babies. And so we've endured a lot of trauma. And so some of the voting barriers that have seen resolve recently is long drives to the polls. My in-laws, they live in Lake Valley, New Mexico, near, right by the Lake Valley chapter house. And before this House Bill 4 that passed, they would have to drive into Farmington, which is 2.5 hours to get to the poll. And, that's a lot of gas. It's time, 5 hours just to go to the polls, not counting the time you have to spend in line. And so long drives to the polls. And a lot of my in laws still only speak Navajo. And so when they get to the polls, you're getting a ballot that is kind of like it's foreign, because they don't read um, English. And so other things that people have experienced is ID requirements that don't recognize a tribal ID. And so remember that I shared that um, tribal governments are they have their own government. So they issue tribal IDs, which are legally accepted by the state governments. But sometimes poll workers don't understand that. They've never been taught that. And so they'll be looking at a tribal ID and be going, nope, you have to have a state ID. And talking about, nullies and grandmas that are like 90 years old. They weren't born in a hospital, they didn't have hospital records. So there's different multiple layers of barriers that have prevented Native people from going to the polls and exercising their right to vote. And so last year, during the legislative session in New Mexico, we have two legislative sessions. And so that's when lawmakers, senators, and House representatives come to the roundhouse and they legislate. So they make laws, they pass policy, memorials, things like that. And so in New Mexico, we have a 30-day one year and a 60-day the next year. So they have that much time to like process all these bills. And last year, House Bill 4 passed. And it's amazing because it did so much for us. For one thing, it restored the rights of incarcerated individuals that have served their time to get their right to vote back. So that means automatically 17,000 people got their right to vote back. They served their time. And so I'm happy about that. And that the reason why that's meaningful to me is because some of my friends, have served their time. And now they have a voice. And so also we have same day voter registration available. So if you didn't already register to vote in New Mexico, you still have the chance to do that on election day, November 5th. So some states, like they give you up until like October 8th or, a certain date that you can pre-register to vote and or register to vote. And then so you're ready for early voting or election day. But now, since HB4 passed, you can still go to the polls on November 5th and vote. Another thing is we have secured ballot drop boxes. So there's three ways to vote in New Mexico. One's by absentee ballot, one's by early voting, and one's by election day voting. And so if you voted by absentee ballot and say, for instance, you didn't get a chance to put it in the mail and you think that the post office won't get it there within a couple of days before election day because absentee ballots have to be in the county clerk's office by 7 p.m. on November 5th. If it doesn't get there, it doesn't count. So now we have these secured ballot steel boxes. They're like, post office boxes, but they're steel and you can drop it there. And they're monitored too. They have lights, they have security videos on there. So, they're secured ballot drop boxes. And so those are closer to the res than the county clerk's office. The last major thing I'll talk about of House Bill 4 is it allows tribes to decide where their polling places will be. And so before, some tribes didn't have polling places located close to their tribal members, places where they lived. So tribes can decide, well, we're going to have it, at this new community center instead of at the old school gym, so that's awesome. But most importantly is we have a problem with addresses on the reservation or Pueblo lands. We don't have addresses in most cases. And so when you go to register to vote, you couldn't write, 123 voting lane, Bloomfield, New Mexico, 87413 or whatever, so, but now HB4 allows chapter houses or tribal governments to designate one address that all of their tribal members can use so that they can register to vote. So that's important. Now you can register to vote, use your tribe, you'll have to find out what the designated address is by calling your tribe's election office if they have one. If they don't have one, just ask and they'll be able to tell you. So that's significant. New Mexico is leading the way in Native American voting rights. So I'm very happy to have testified in support of that bill last year, and so happy that there's so many different organizations around the country and in New Mexico that are um, pushing these policy changes and laws forward so that we can trust the government that governs us, and we will. I feel like if we have more natives in office, or more people who understand the issues that we experience, that will be able to not only trust them but call them. So I have a question for our viewers, and I'm wondering if you know who your representative is. And if you don't, then make an effort to do so. And that's kind of one of the things about my campaign that I stress is that if you elect me as your senator, you're going to have access to me. You're going to know where I live, you're going to know my phone number, you're going to know my website, and you're going to be able to share your issues with me and your wins, because we have a lot of things that are going in our favor too. Like for instance, in New Mexico, we've put a significant amount of resources meaning money and people, into education. And so we've expanded early childhood education. And and it's working because we used to be 50th in the nation, which is the worst state in the nation, and now we're 47th. So, little by little, we are, moving up on that ladder. Am I okay?
No, you're good. I just wanted to make sure that people find out, or you challenge them, and do you know who your representative is? That's a really good question. If you do know, please put it in the comments. And if you don't know, how would somebody find out?
Well, in New Mexico, you can go to www.nmlegis.gov, nmlegis.gov, and type in your address, and it'll tell you who your House representative is, who's your senator, who's your United States representative, who's your governor, who's your school board representative, who's your, whatever elected leaders you have. It'll tell you all of your elected leaders. And so that's one way that you can find out. But since we're in election season right now, when you run for office, you get a ton of emails, like from different people, like Rock the Vote, or the New Mexico League of Women Voters, or these different organizations that want to know where you stand. So if you Google my name, I mean, I've spent a lot of time responding to these questionnaires and being interviewed, and people asking me, what are my priorities, and I can say what my priorities are, why I'm running for office. And so if you Google me, there you'll see that I've been endorsed by 4 different unions: the National Education Association, SMART, which is the Sheet Metal Workers Local 49 Union, the County Employees Public Union, and New Mexico Voters First, Advanced Native Political Leadership. And so if you want to go to my website, www.pioche.com, you can see all of my endorsements. And actually, I have a volunteer friend that manages my website, so not all of my endorsements are up, but if you go there, you'll see, the emblems at the bottom. So, and then let me talk about the elected officials also that have, since you're showing the unions, the organizations, these are the people that reached out to me, and we had an interview process or filled out a questionnaire for them and visited their facilities. And, they educated me, and they feel strongly, they trust me to represent them. So they endorsed me. And so SMART is not on here. It's a sheet metal workers union. And I went to Albuquerque to accept that endorsement. And it was amazing to see their training facility. So sheet metal workers are like people that are part of the HVAC. They build those HVAC units, air conditioning units. And so it was awesome to see that and hear about that they have over 100 people on their waiting list to go through their training program. And so I was thinking, wow, we could have a facility like that here in San Juan County, because we have San Juan College, which has amazing trades programs there. And so if we brought the sheet metal program here, we could alleviate that wait list and also keep people close to home, because a lot of people have to relocate to Albuquerque. And so there's, they have to leave their family, they have to leave, a place where they grew up and they know and they feel comfortable being. They have to pay for, housing and all of that, that comes in, all of those expenses that come with relocating. And I remember there was a room full of legislators that were asking questions, and I was listening mostly because I like to listen to learn and to understand. But nobody asked about, how is the Sheet Metal Union serving Native people? And so they made a call, last questions. And so I raised my hand and I was like, what percentage of those 100 and something people on the wait list are Native American? Um, and he didn't have an answer. But he said, thank you for bringing that up to me because that's another data point that we should probably be tracking so that we can work and outreach to tribal governments. Remember, there's 23 federally recognized tribes in New Mexico. So they have 23 calls to make to those workforce training programs that may or may not exist in those tribal governments. So it was the start of a really good relationship with that union, and hopefully if I'm elected as senator, that I'll be able to voice our needs in San Juan County because we have a 20%, and just in my district we have 20% poverty rate. And so, elected officials, before you navigate away from that page, these are just a few of the first elected officials that stepped up to endorse me. And so, Senator Jerry Ortiz Pino, Senator Antoinette Cedillo Lopez, Tallman, Allison Garrett, um, their endorsement means so much to me because it doesn't mean that, they just trust me. It means that if I get elected, they're going to have open arms for me and they're going to mentor me through the process of being a legislator, because who knows how to be a legislator unless you've been one before? Not a lot of people, so you need that network of people that's going to, walk you through that process. Even as easy as like, where's the restrooms? Where do we, go to take a vote and things like that. Where's my office? So um, some of these people have stepped up. More, there's more of them that have stepped up that we haven't put on there, and they're like Senator Mimi Stewart. She sent me a check for $1,000, and she told me use this money wisely, but also use it to challenge other senators and tell them Mimi Stewart sent you. So after she said that, I was like, guess what? Mimi Stewart, the president of the Senate leadership, Senate pro tempore, said she donated me $1,000, so I want you to match that. And so it was a great conversation. So I got more donations because of her wisdom. I wouldn't have thought of that, but yeah, so um I'm proud of my endorsements and the trust of our sitting legislators and elected officials.
Can you tell individuals what area you're running for?
Um, are you talking about the Senate District 2, what it looks like?
Yes.
Okay. So Senate District 2 is on the west side of Farmington. It encompasses Aztec, Bloomfield, Navajo Dam, and it looks like um, 32% Hispanic, 16% Native American, 49% white. And within that, there's almost 8% veterans and 20% of people in poverty. So, and it's a cluster of small rural communities, but very strong family values. I've had the pleasure to work in Aztec as I did my student teaching there, and I worked there for a year as a substitute teacher, and I was very grateful about that because it's a hard. I taught middle school, and it was very hard to teach middle school. It it helped me understand what teachers go through. You get verbally abused, but at the same time, when you see those light bulbs go off and you're teaching people, students about their history or grammar or how to read or how to do, a multiplication problem, and they're like, oh, I get it. Those moments are so satisfying. So yes, that's what my district looks like. And I I want to talk a little bit about my background. sometimes when I'm making calls, so in a campaign, you have to do community events, meet and greet. Sometimes you do town halls. We haven't had any town halls, but I visited local chapter houses, had some meet and greets, and done door to door canvassing. So what that means is you get a list of names and addresses, um, sometimes of people that are in your party. So I have a list of Democrats, and I go to their doors and I knock and I just introduce myself and say, "Hi, I'm Songtree Pioche. I'm a candidate for Senate District 2. And I, want to have a conversation with you about, what are your issues? How's life basically, and we'll have a conversation, and they'll ask me about, like, what are your views on abortion, or what are your views on education? Or sometimes the other day I had one that opened the door and she's all, "Hi, Songtree," and she's like, "You subbed for me. Do you remember?" And I was like, "Yes, I do remember." And so I just thought that moment was awesome too, because that's my whole goal, is representation. Is I want people to know me and know that I have their best interests in mind and when and if I um, am elected to the Senate. Um, some other things about me is, I've had a lot of leadership experience, and April talked about our lineage being sixth generation from Chief Red Cloud, and sadly, like, we didn't know that fact when we were little. My parents didn't really talk about their heritage a lot because of boarding school, I think. I feel like it was beat out of them. They both went to boarding school, and I mean, they both had different experiences. My mom kind of reflected on some positive experiences, like watching Elvis together and the Beatles in the community TV room. And she told me, like, the next day there would be like lipstick all over the TV, So that's a good um, reflection. But on the other hand, like, my dad went to Albuquerque Indians. Our dad went to Albuquerque Indian School, and he told our older sister that he used to wear a wool jacket so that he wouldn't get hurt that bad, because he got beat and stuff. So I feel like, they were told not to speak their language or practice their culture. And so they listened. And so that's why we didn't get to hear or learn our languages. And so I was thinking, someone asked me, like, what makes you a good leader? And I thought about that too. And I remember the first time I stepped out for leadership. And I don't know if you remember this, April, but I ran for seventh grade rep at South Middle School. And I remember our older sister was my campaign manager. And those were the days when you would walk around with like sandwich boards, and unfortunately, I lost to Shanita Stevenson, who rapped her speech, but it was my first taste of running for office. And so, um, long story short, my leadership career um, restarted after my experience with Cash and advocating for him and his needs as a gifted student. After that, I was recruited to be an ambassador for the New Mexico Public Education Department. And so NMPED monitors the 89 school districts in New Mexico. And so I got to go through a training program for that and understand how school districts work. And so there's 89 little multi-million dollar organizations that are responsible for educating our students, and they're failing. And that's a sad statistic, but it's true. And it was proven to be true through the Yazzie Martinez lawsuit. So in New Mexico, in 2002, I could be wrong about that year, but it wasn't very long ago, 6 or 7 years ago, um, Wilhelmina Yazzie and the Martinez family combined their cases against the state of New Mexico and sued the state for not providing a sufficient education for children, and they won. So what that means is the state is was deemed not fulfilling their constitutional requirement of providing an education for four distinct populations. So Native Americans, special needs, um, which are children with disabilities, low socioeconomic um, families, and what was the fourth one? I forget the fourth one. I'm sorry about that, but there was four entities that were identified in the lawsuit, and so since the state lost that lawsuit, they have to correct that, and so it's been a long process, and so I remember advocating for cash at the local school district and not being treated well. You know, parents that speak up are not treated well. They're not like, oh, you know, like we're sorry, we're not providing enough resources. They no, they don't treat you good. And so I was lucky enough to have that initial ambassadorship training so that I could challenge them. And I remember some people saying, man, you should go to law school, you know, like you're challenging the school district and they spent like $25,000 in legal fees fighting me. And so I I remember that lady that told me, you should go to law school, you should go back to school. And because at that time I hadn't finished school, I had only received my associate's degree. And so I took that into consideration and I did go back to school and I got my bachelor's degree in Native American Studies with an emphasis in leadership and building Native nations. And I graduated magna cum laude, which is like with honors. And the reason why is because the Native American Studies program at UNM is amazing. It's one of the best in the country. And it helped me understand, you know, my background, the background of Native Americans and all of our history, the hardships we've endured. And so now I understand myself better, you know, like, oh, okay, I'm designated by our creator to fight these fights and to stand up and have the courage to do so. So since then, I, you know, ascended the ranks. I went from PTO president, booster club president, to the PTO chair, culture outreach committee, Indian education committee chair, to serving as the vice chair for the Democratic Party of San Juan County, the chair and vice chair of the Native American Democratic Caucus of New Mexico. And then I went through those two candidate training programs that I mentioned before, the Emerge New Mexico and Advanced Native Political Leadership. And currently, I serve as a commissioner, and I was commissioned, or I was designated by the governor of New Mexico, Michelle Lujan Grisham, to be serve on this commission. And I am grateful for that because it's a bipartisan commission. So I work with Republican women, Democrat women, and also I think now we have an independent party representative. So we work together to create policy and advocate for women's any law that affects women. And so I've had a lot of experience in leadership locally and statewide and nationally too. Um, and so I see that you put up my website, which is how to get involved in my campaign. Is that where we're transitioning now?
Yeah, I actually, I hear all of the great things that you've done. I hear all of the things that you've been through. I hear a lot of great things, but I also know that it doesn't just take you to do it. I know one of the things that we talked about before this was door knocking, and the individuals that are in seats now that have done that. It's not just like vote for me and I win. There have been several accomplishments that haven't been that successful outcome, yet you're still doing it. So I wanted to encourage individuals to help you if they do. That's why I put up the website. If they'd like to help with just doing something like this, or I know that you're doing phone calling, phone banking, text banking, door knocking. So I wanted to have you speak a little bit on that portion of it as well.
Yes. Okay. And you're right, April. Um, Elections aren't won alone. If you try to do an election on your own, you're not going to be as successful as if you had a village of people with you. And it's tough, you know. So what I need help with is I have like 2 boxes of yard signs, like the ones behind me, that need to go out into the community. So if you live locally, and you have a car, or you want to come with me, we could go around our District 2 and put out those signs. That's one way to get people aware of who's going to be on the ballot. But in my candidate training program, they say signs don't vote. So although it's a good way to get out my name and, bring that kind of voter awareness, where the votes come from is from door knocking and from um, phone banking. So I have daily phone bankings happening. You can do that remotely. What would happen is I would send you a link. I can give you training as well. And so you would call people and, tell them who I am and remind them to vote, because November 5th is next week. So we have that much time to do. Also, I could use help with just setting up and breaking down events. So I get invited to a lot of different events, and I have to, drive there and set up and break down. So that would be good too. Um, what else? I think. Oh, and donate to the campaign. One of the things in my I've run for office 3 times. So the first time I ran for school board, I got 20% of the vote. The second time I ran for magistrate judge, I got 25% of the vote. In order to change a district, you have to do the work, and I'm doing the work, and I'm seeing more voters turn out. And this time, I've gotten more resources behind me, so more money behind me, and so I'm able to, buy signs, buy radio time, buy, or pay people to help me. My district is vast. It has, it's huge, and it's a lot of gas. And so I recognize that. So if you work for me, you will be paid. I can pay for your gas and your time. And at the same time, we have a shortage of organizers and campaign managers. So if you come onto my campaign, either as a volunteer or as a paid person, you're going to be immersed in, a campaign, and then understand the nuts and bolts of a campaign. So does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank
Okay.
you very much for doing that. That's one of the reasons why I also asked you where your district was. So if people in the New Mexico area, Farmington, all of those areas are close to you and want to hang out with you and laugh with you and visit with you, that's an opportunity. And I know friends and family are out there, and I just there's a lot of different issues that people want to hear about, and a lot of different things that people are asking about. But we also need to investigate things on our own. So, like propositions or what you're running for, or, we need to make sure that we know those people that are in those seats. Like you said, you'll have your door open. Some people um, might be too busy to be answering questions, but I always see it like you're supposed to be the voice of the community and not just your own voice. So it's important for us to know those individuals that we're voting for, because we're ultimately endorsing them and wanting them to be our voice, So I appreciate you taking the time to come on and to talk about the importance of your campaign, the importance of voting, providing individuals information on what voting looks like. I don't know. I know I want to be mindful of people's time as well. So I want to see if you have any last words or encourage anybody in different ways.
Yeah, I do have a couple of last points I want to make. I'm sorry I forgot to address your question about, some of the issues that I stand for. And of course, my number one issue is education. Education, education, education. I mentioned that we are 47th in the nation, and that is unacceptable. Our educators work so hard, from 6 in the morning to 10 at night. And so what's happening is our contracts are from like 7:30 to 3:30, but we're still required to do professional development, work parent teacher conference nights, volunteer for, different things. And basically what that is wage theft. Okay. Like people, teachers and administrators are being required to work after our contract hours and not get any pay. And so that's not acceptable. If we compare our state to other states that are doing well, those educators are making $100,000 a year. An entry level teacher here are making 50,000. Even though you're required to have a bachelor's degree and then a master's degree and all this multiple layers of public or professional development. So I will definitely be a voice for teachers because I know the grind intimately. A couple of other things is just tribal sovereignty. Like a lot of people don't understand that we have the right to govern ourselves as tribal people. And so if you're going to want to, you know, fly your drone on our land or build a fence, or, use water that comes from our lands, you're going to have to think about tribal sovereignty. Um, and because a lot of the things that we have on our lands are protected and sacred. Um, and just the inflation, it's hard to live right now. And so access to good paying jobs is crucial. I don't like now that I do have a good paying job, I'm so thankful because I can pay my bills and not worry about somebody knocking on my door telling me that, my electric is going to be disconnected. And just these fees that they charge you. If you're late, you get charged $10 and $10 and, $5 here, $10 there. And it's just ridiculous. So, yeah, I will be definitely a voice for, regular people. I'm not retired. I'm not, I've put myself through school and have experienced hardships. And I just want a better life for our community and for our kids. Um, and, um, so if you could consider supporting me, go, vote for me. Early voting is until November 2nd, Saturday. That's your last opportunity to early vote in San Juan County from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And there's 33 voting locations available. You can vote anywhere. You don't have to vote in Bloomfield or Aztec where you live. You can vote anywhere. And also turn in your absentee ballots. If you requested an absentee ballot, it needs to be in by 7 p.m. on November 5th. And if you want to look up your representative and know more about them, or me, look me up, Google me. There's tons of information about me and what I stand for if I didn't get a chance to cover it tonight. And I just want to thank everybody that has supported me, everybody that has endorsed me and donated to my campaign. Those $2, $5, $1,000 donations, they are getting out the vote. We call it GOTV, but it stands for getting out the vote. So let's GOTV.
That's awesome. Let's GOTV.
Snag the vote. That's another thing that's happening. We need to snag the vote.
Snag the vote. The thing is, like, if you do want to share, I've seen individuals share $5, $6, any amount that you can share, even sharing this live, if you don't have the money to do it, would be great. So, or if you want to put in some volunteer hours, I know that you can do phone banking from wherever you are. You don't have to be in New Mexico. But thank you all for joining us today. Thank you for allowing us to kind come into your home or wherever you are so that we can visit, that we can chit chat, we can be informed, we can be reminded, and we can make differences in different ways. So with that being said, I appreciate you all for spending a small time with us. Please be reminded, I actually do an online event with some of my girlfriends, and it is called Sissies, Uchis, and Aunties. Our next live is going to be on November 14th at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 12 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. Please join us. And Songtree, individuals can reach you at your website, right?
Yes.
Okay, great.
My website, call me or reach me. Follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, X, and my website. My phone number, you can call me, text me, 505-860-4276. And also, one last thing is their election anxiety is true. Okay, it's real. And I know there's a lot of ads and everything coming out. So take some time to balance and pray and research your representatives. Pray for them too. It's a hard time. It's a lot of work. It's exhausting, especially in New Mexico. It's an unpaid legislate. It's an unpaid job. We don't get paid. You get a stipend, but people that are running for office here, if they're running, they're really, really dedicating their life to it because you don't get paid. So, but I heard one tip this morning about election anxiety is the way to relieve it is to get involved. And so support your candidate, like if they align with your values, reach out and support them because we need your help.
Yeah. Thank you all for being here. Ta'a pila mayaye gracias at yehet. Thank you. We'll see you again soon. Have a great day. And